In this video we're going to look a little bit more about how we read data from arrays. So we've got basically the same first part of the program as we had last time. In fact, actually we can comment this bit out because we don't need the random number generator here. But we've got the same arrays, the shape names and the shape size from the last one. I've left decagon and 10 in. But instead of going and doing some random number generator and printing stuff out down here, I've just gone away and started to directly print out the data in the arrays. So I've got two lines here. The first one says print out shape name 0. Now between these square brackets we put an integer to tell us which particular element of the array we're interested in, and we call this integer value the index. So we're using an index value of 0 here, which means print out the 0th value in the array. Now array elements and most lists of data elements in Java start numbering from 0, not 1. So this is element 0, this is element 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is one reason why when we were dealing with for loops I generally tended to start counting variables from 0, because often you're using a for loop to look up or manipulate data in a list, and if you start from 0 you're already matching up with the way the elements in your array are numbered to start with from 0. So this says print out the element of the array called shape names with index 0. This does the same thing but with shape size, the array of integers, again with element 0. So we would expect this to print triangle and then 3. Down here we're printing out the element from shape names with index 6, and if we count them it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so it should print decagon. I'm not bothering to print out shape size here. I think you can work out that if I printed out shape size 6 we would print out 10. The last thing we're doing though is we're printing out this thing shape names.length. Basically that says tell me how long this array called shape names is. Now although we're counting from 0 and the last element is element 6, if you actually count the number of shapes in here it actually comes out at 7. So this will actually print 7 because there are 7 things in the array. This is slightly unhelpfully confusing sometimes. You've got to bear this in mind. There will be 7 things in this array and they'll be labelled from 0 to 6 or indexed from 0 to 6. So if we run this we can see it does indeed print out triangle, 3, decagon and 7. Now we can change this if we want. Let's put in here 4 and let's change these to 2 just to show that we can. And let's save this and compile it again. And now it's printing out pentagon because we put in 2 and that's element 0, 1, 2, and heptagon down here 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but of course it's still printing out 7 for the length of the array because it is still 7. If however we take out decagon and we take out the 10 as well just to be safe, although in fact have to do that here, but now it's printing out 6 because we've made the array shorter. So it's very helpful to have something that's built into the programming language that says do something for however many elements there are, rather than having to actually count them or keep track of them. Okay, before we finish this video I'm going to show you one other thing. Suppose we change this to, let's say, 11. Now there aren't 11 elements in this array. We've already established there are currently 6 because there were 7 and I've deleted 1. So if I save this then I'm going to now compile it again. And it compiles fine because there's nothing wrong with the code in that sense. However, when we run it we get an exception, an error. Array index out of bounds exception. And then it says the value 11 and it tells us what line it's on, line 17. So it's this line here, line 17, and it's this value of 11. Java programs will crash if you try to look up elements in an array that do not exist. Okay, so this one's got elements from 0 to 5. It does not have an element 11. We do need to be a little bit careful about that to make sure we don't start accessing elements that don't exist. I'm going to put that back to 4. One other thing I'm going to point out here, if you remember in the previous program we had a random number generator random to generate random numbers. And the way we generated these random number generators was to call this rand.nextInt, and we passed it shapeNames.length as its argument. Now if you remember back to the very first video where we did the version of shapes that was pretty bad and didn't have an array, we had I said that when you called this function to generate random numbers, it generated a random number in the range from 0 to 1 minus whatever you gave it here. Okay, so if you put in there 10, it would generate a random number in the range of 0 to 9. If you were wondering at the time why that was odd, well, one reason for doing it is so that you can use these numbers to look up things in arrays. If you want to generate a random element of an array, which is what we want to do here, you can just put in the name of the array.length, and it will automatically generate a number in the range from 0, which is going to be the index of the first element in the array, up to length, which is going to be the index of the last element in the array. So that's why that works like that.